I think that, while we're in classes with the guys most of the time during the week, one of the things we're able to do here is we're actually able to interact with them. And well, once you get to meet somebody in person, talk with them in person, the communication bandwidth increases. So this has been great. The people that I've met that are also trading, that I'm also in the Rebel Pit with, and we are exchanging text messages back and forth, the camaraderie is just excellent. So I recommend anytime they have an in-person event, you got to come and attend.
Join us this December in Miami, Florida for Market Rebellion Live.
Welcome back, folks. Almost didn't happen. At least part of us almost didn't happen. I'm John Najarian. He's Pete Najarian. And let's just say that, Pete, they were mowing the lawn down here with like 40 guys with weed whackers. So instead of one lawnmower, they had 40 guys with weed whackers, and they had to back up traffic for miles. And so,
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias. But hey, folks, great to have you here with us. I know a lot of you are tuning in for the first time. We're growing by about 1,000 people, maybe a little bit more than that per week. So thank you. Remember, you can always pull down episodes on YouTube. If you go over to YouTube and you type in Market Rebellion in the search bar on YouTube, you'll see our website or, our YouTube channel, and you can just see all of the episodes. You can also watch it live on Twitter, YouTube, and Market Rebellion. And we'll have an announcement, hopefully at the end of this week, Pete, about a big streamer opportunity for us. So anyway, with all that said, and being late as I am, let's talk about the 1 minute macro, Pete.
Yeah.
1 minute macro. Is it going to be all about Sam Bankman-Fried?
No.
No. Is it going to be about the dollar being weak?
I'll tell you what, the dollar did start over 107. It was like 107 and a half or something like that. John started to slip back down, got underneath. Now it's in the 106.80 area. We've been watching the Dow itself start to turn, and it was turning long before the NASDAQ, but NASDAQ definitely having a lot of effects today in a much more negative side, but that's even been improving as we've gotten a little bit deeper into the day. So I think that's it for the macro for me, John. How about you?
That's enough macro right there, I think.
Yeah.
Not a big fan of the macro. So let's start with Hasbro, Pete, because we had unusual activity again in this one. We had it Thursday last week. I talked about it on 3 at 3. They were buying the puts to the downside. And right once again, because Hasbro stock taken a double downgrade today, 2 downgrades. They skipped right past one, Pete, and went all the way to underperform. They didn't go to hold. They went all the way from buy to underperform, which means basically sell.
Yeah, that was Bank of America, John. They went from 73 to 42. I mean, you want to talk about absolutely slamming this company. They are. That it's well-deserved, by the way, because of this fact. It's basically hitting 52-week lows today, or at least within pennies of those 52-week lows. On top of that, John, one of the issues that I always have with companies is I always want to see growth, right? You and I both, when we diagnose all these companies that we look at each and every day, do they have growth? The answer is no. You look at their earnings, you look at their revenue, and it is slowing, and that is a problem. And that's why, despite the fact that it trades at what looks like a pretty good PE, the problem that I would have right now is, the stock's getting hammered, but not only that, but they're slowing the growth. And we also know part of the reasons why they are. It's that gathering cards thing, that trading cards deal. That's an issue, but I'm staying away. But you're right, John. The put buying certainly did give us a good tell on what the direction was for this stock.
That's right. And folks, Magic the Gathering, MTG, is actually how Mount Gox got its name. MT like mountain and G, Gox. And that was one of the first big crypto hacks, Pete. So right now the stock Hasbro stock is a hack. So yeah, I'm staying away. How about Biogen, Pete? These guys, along with Lilly, worked on an Alzheimer's drug that actually got through various endpoints. They met the various goals that they had to have, and theirs, thumbs up for them. And they had a big competitor, Roche, big Swiss company, going after them. And their testing on their Alzheimer's treatment did not meet the necessary endpoints. And so that one going to either back to the drawing boards, Pete, or just, trashing it. But that's good for Biogen.
Yeah, Biogen's absolutely screaming to the upside, John. I mean, we talked a lot about Merck and we've talked a lot about Lilly and some of the option paper we've had in those names that I really do like a lot. But Biogen's been absolutely ripping to the upside, John. It's had an incredible year already of performance. It's up again today, 52-week highs. It was up, 4 or 5%, I think, today. And a lot of that, based on all the right reasons. And why I say that is it's not just about this specific drug and the competition there, the late stage that they have had when it comes to the Alzheimer's drug, but that pipeline, John. They've got a pipeline in the deep stages of phase 3 where they've just got an enormous number of different types of drugs, vaccines, all those types of things. And I think that alone tells me, and by the way, these guys are cash flow kings, John. I'm talking $2.3 billion of free cash flow. So when you've got growth, you've got cash flow, you've got a deep pipeline, all the reasons why I think Biogen's just having an absolutely spectacular year and today.
Yeah, to Pete's point, folks, it's up 32% year to date. I remember, Pete, back in the day when Carl Icahn was the champion of this stock. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, it has gone higher and higher. And you and I, Pete, was more or less the specialist for a long time in the options of BIIB. Mm-hmm. Pete and our guy, Todd Rarup, were two, I think, Pete, of the specialists for this one. Then you went on over to America Online and things like that, AOL. But wow, spectacular performance and well-deserved because, like you said, they not only develop great drugs, but then they make a profit on those drugs because, the burn rate for a lot of these companies is horrific. I'm not having a tag day for Roche anytime soon, though, Pete. They're going to be just fine. All right. What about Oatly? I don't know if they're going to be just fine. They're down 20% today, near the 52-week low. Maybe they'll smash through it by the end of the day. Pete, this is a stock that peaked at just over 10 and is now trading under $2. So it's been a pretty ugly time for them, and all they do is keep losing money.
Yeah, and you and I talk about this all the time, John. They missed all the expectations. They trimmed their full year guidance. I mean, there's almost nothing that I can take away from this earnings call that I'd say, you know what, but, and there's no but. You look at this thing, they're burning through cash. That's a major problem as well. They missed in just about every category you could want, John, including margin. So when I look at this company, it's an interesting idea. Maybe it's an interesting idea that could go somewhere, but you've got to be profitable. And like many of these other names where they've got a great idea, but it's not profitable, that's not a stock you want to be in. I'd throw Uber in this category. I'd throw Lyft in this category. I'd put in Peloton in this category. And now we're going to throw Oatly in there as well.
Yeah, when you've got a company that, granted, there are a lot of people that are either vegan, Pete, or that have some sort of, like a lactic acid problem or, what is it, Pete? What did our dad used to always say he had?
Yeah, he had something. He was missing some sort of something where he could break down milk. I can't remember what the hell it was.
Lactose intolerant or something.
Lactose intolerant. Yeah, this is exactly that. Fantastic.
Well, I mean, so we understand why you'd make an oat-based milk product or whatever, but as long as you're losing $170 million per quarter, I think you're going to be in trouble if you can't turn that ship around. So I'm with Pete. I don't buy this one right here. I don't know that anybody needs it that bad at this level because the PE, you got to have some P, not just E. All right, Pete. Let's wind it up with the AMC Ape trade because one of these two stocks was up and the other one was down. But guess what? It's the same company. And yeah, they had a fabulous November. It was a record-breaking November for them. And certainly over the weekend with this Wakanda Forever, the Black Panther Wakanda Forever, they did really well. A lot of people went to the theater. Record numbers of people went to the theater. But if you're only looking at one, if you're only looking at AMC, you're thinking, wow, these guys killed it and the stock price reflects it. Well, not so fast. Take a look at APE, because while the AMC is up almost 6% still right now, Pete, the other one is down about the same amount. No, it's now down 9%. So the one side's going down faster than the other is going up.
John, this whole thing's a debacle. I saw the CEO today on television trying to talk about what their company's doing. And obviously the focus was on the one that was going up, not the one that was going down. But when you look at AMC, John, they still, now this is one of the originals where we were talking about meme stocks, right? They still have a 20% short interest. They're still burning through cash, and they still have $10 billion in debt. They do have some cash, about 700 million, but they've got 10 billion in debt. The whole problem is, John, they are so reliant on so many different things, and it's interesting to see this company and a little bit of a squeeze that you're seeing today on AMC on some of the good news that's coming out of it. But obviously, like you just said, the ape side of it, not so much. That ain't too good.
Yeah, you don't get to just do a good stock, bad stock. But that's what they tried to do. And they also tried to do a little, Pete, where they said, let's just issue a new stock, spin it out to all the other shareholders, and then we can issue more of this side and it won't affect this side. Yes, it will.
Yeah, it will.
Is the bottom line. By the way, folks, we already at the top of the show ran that commercial for Miami. I'm just going to tell you real quick that, that is going to be a great event. There's few tickets left. It includes hotel and all that kind of stuff. It's down in Miami, December 8th through the 10th. So check that out when you have time. December 8th through the 10th. Go to marketrebellion.com/Miami. That's marketrebellion.com/Miami. You know who's going to join us, Pete? Gene Munster is going to be down there. He's going to be joining us. That's one of the guys in tech that all of us listen to.
Yep, absolutely. Gene's a great guy. It all started because he came on one of our Monday roundtables, John, and all of a sudden he goes, hey, look, I want to come. He liked what he was hearing about this whole thing with Miami. And so what the heck? Why not? So we'd have Gino along. It's going to be great.
Bang.
Bang.
All right. This is the time in the show, Pete, where even when I'm late, like I was today, I'm, taking my blows because I deserve them for being late. But we talk about unusual option activity because we know that an awful lot of people miss it on network television. Even though Pete's still under contract with CNBC and still being paid, a lot of us are wondering why they're still paying him to not be on TV, but we'll leave that to somebody else, I guess, Pete. I'm going to focus on SPY, SPY, because the ETF that tracks the S&P 500, that is a much smaller version. It is 1/10 the size. Instead of being 3,900, it's 397. You get the idea. But 24,000 actually, Pete, of the end of December 375 puts were bought. And these weren't cheap. They paid over $5, which means $500 since every option is for 100 shares. So they paid $500 a piece for 24,000 of these. Sounds to me, Pete, like somebody needed a lot of protection, or they wanted to bet that the market goes down between now and the end of the year. Mm-hmm. You like this one? Would you buy a little protection or a bet on the downside?
I like it, John, just because you want to have a little protection, I think, always when you can. And if it's inexpensive, we know what the volatility index has looked like. It's come down from into the 30s all the way into the lower 20s now. So it makes a little bit of sense for me, John. It's definitely an interesting trade and a sizable trade. I got a sizable trade as well, John, but it's not here in the United States. It's Asher. And this is the 300 largest, most liquid stocks from China. And we talk about this all the time. We have seen an incredible inflow of buyers of China looking for a bounce to the upside, actually, John, because of the fact that they're maybe laying off on restrictions. They're maybe going to start coming out of this thing that they continue to close down. Maybe it'll actually open up. And if they actually follow through, which a lot of people have been playing on, then we're going to start to see a nice move to the upside. We've seen some of those moves of late. We have seen in this particular name, John, 7 hits that are all bullish in the month of November already. This is November 14th, and obviously there are weekends included there. But think of that. Nothing but huge buyers, 10,000 all the way up to 45,000 in terms of the size of the option plays. Well, today, they bought 35,000 of the Asher December 30 calls, John. Those are going for about 31 cents. Really interesting to see these. They also did hedge that by selling the 32 calls against these 30 calls. So they don't expect it to absolutely rip to the upside and keep on ripping, or they wouldn't have sold that other topside option. But they're buying these December 30 calls for 31 cents. As I said, 35,000 of those. Pretty interesting trade. I like what we're seeing here. I'm in this name, John, as well. I like it because of the fact that we consistently keep seeing this, and we are also seeing a lot of those Chinese names start to make a little bit of a move to the upside. This particular ETF is starting to move to the upside as well. By the way, the stock was a little over, right around that 27 level, a little higher when we saw this call buying today.
Pete, the stock is up 12.5% since the end of October, basically since Halloween, the 31st. So yeah, there, as cites that activity, folks, people have been rewarded for betting on it since basically the end of October. So keep an eye on that. I like the play, Pete, especially we both know if and when China does reopen, the market over there is going to pop. And I think people are smart to get into a broader market ETF rather than just an individual stock like Baba or Billy or Tencent or any of those. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I know I was listening, Pete, on the Odyssey Network. Remember, every Sunday you can hear Pete. He's on WCCO radio from 10 in the morning until noon Central Time. So in other words, from 11 till 1 East Coast. And it's also carried on the Odyssey app. You can listen free from anywhere. And it's called the Sports Huddle. So Pete, give us a little of what you were talking about and what you're thinking about as far as sports right now.
Well, the first one, John, I think you go to college football, right? And the cream rises to the top. And right now, as we've gotten into college football a lot deeper, and we're getting towards the end of this whole thing, we're seeing which ones are really at the top. And boy, it's pretty interesting because you've got Georgia, John. They have been absolutely as dominant as any team I have ever seen. Now, they did have a fairly close game with Tennessee as far as the score, but they dominated that game, I thought, when I watched the game. So it'll be interesting, but they're sitting at number 1. They also have the number 3 offense in all of football, John, over 500 yards per game. They got the number 2 defense. They're holding people to about 11 points a game. Gives you a little bit of an idea just how good they are. Then you've got Ohio State. Then you've got Michigan. They're going to have to play at the end of the year. You and I were talking about this earlier today, about that exact matchup. And then at number 4, how do you not have TCU in there? They're undefeated. And by the way, they had to go to Austin. Game day was there. If you've not been seeing Pat McAfee on game day the last couple of weeks, you're nuts, because this guy is the greatest. He's so entertaining, so much fun. The week before it was at Georgia. He had everybody hooting and hollering there. At Texas, he had everybody, going through all the different Texas stuff as well. It was just so much fun, John. But TCU beat them, and they beat them pretty good. The score was relatively close, but TCU did dominate the game. When you just look at some of the numbers and everything else, it wasn't even close, and absolutely stuffed an offense that runs the ball really, really well. But John, here's where it's kind of fun. So let's take a look at who are the teams right now that could sneak in there if they get the opportunity, if anybody slips up top. And they're not going to have to slip, because somebody's going to lose that game with Ohio State and Michigan. That will be the last game of the regular season. Then they're going to have to go to the whole conference championships and all the rest of that. But what about Tennessee, John? Their only loss, and by the way, they absolutely smoked this week again. They put up huge numbers, but they're sitting there at 9-1. They've been fantastic, but they did lose at Georgia, the number 1 team in the country. So then it's USC. They're 9-1, John. They've lost 1 game. They lost it by 1 point at Utah, a tough place to play. So they're sitting there just kind of hoping like heck because Oregon went down. UCLA went down. USC absolutely crushed poor Colorado. I mean, it was ugly on Friday night, John. It was really, really ugly. But then you got LSU, then you got Bama. They're all somewhere in the mix down there, but most likely neither of those are going to make it in. But I got a long shot for you, John. How about North Carolina? They're only 9-1, and they still have NC State, and they've got Clemson left. If they win out and win both those games, are these guys a team that can maybe somehow catapult themselves above these others? They got 1 loss to Notre Dame. Notre Dame's proven to be a little bit better. What do you think? Like, who is the top 4? Is it the right top 4 right now?
Well, like you say, right now, yes. But it remains to be seen what Ohio State and Michigan do, Pete, because obviously they do have to play, and then whoever wins is going to have to also play in the Big Ten championship, right?
Yep.
That's going to be, very interesting. And then we've got, like you said, TCU and Tennessee. All that receiver does from Tennessee, by the way, Pete, is catch touchdowns.
Yeah.
5 touchdown catches. Are you kidding me? When that kid does that in a game, when he scores 5 touchdowns, that's pretty close to unheard of. When Kels does that, that's pretty amazing when he does 4 in pro football. To have a college football athlete do 5 against major competition too is pretty damned impressive. So I think you're right. We're probably going to see somebody slip in there, and it just might be Tennessee or North Carolina.
Yeah, could be interesting. I know no one wants North Carolina. Nobody thinks North Carolina is going to be there, but we got to keep an eye on them, John. And we talked about that quarterback being a kid who should be at least, if nothing else, a dark horse for the Heisman because he is putting up unbelievable numbers this year. He's been great. All right, on to the NFL. Best game of the year, bar none, was yesterday. Yes. And you had the Vikings and the Buffalo Bills. The Vikings are going on the road. They got to play at Buffalo. Is Josh Allen going to play? There was all this gamesmanship, right, before the game. Well, Josh Allen did play, and he and Kirk Cousins went head-to-head, John. How about this? For all those haters of Kirk Cousins, you don't know anything about football. You have no clue about football. You don't understand football, and this guy's a gamer, and he proved it against the best defense in the NFL yesterday. He went down the field multiple times in the second half. First of all, the first half, it was all Buffalo. Second half, it was all Vikings. It was a really interesting game, and Kirk Cousins at the very end of that game, John, and in overtime, did what he needed to do to get the team the win, which they did. But before we go there, how about this? Those two both threw for almost 350 yards each. They had almost identical numbers. Both of them had a couple of mistakes. They both threw interceptions. Both of them had 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown. But then you had JJ, right? Justin Jefferson, the best receiver in all of the NFL, in my opinion. 10 catches, 193 yards, John. But we also were going up against a former Viking receiver, Stephon Diggs. This guy's unbelievable as well. He had a great game, and they lit it up. And then when you look at the running backs against, and I put Josh Allen as a running back, he and Singletary had about equal numbers to Dalvin Cook. So, I mean, everything was even. It was unbelievable game. I'll tell you what, the fact that it went to overtime, the fact that they got down to the goal line, John, to get there, the Vikings can't punch it in, but then they get the fumble to get the touchdown, to be able to put themselves in position, and then both teams just going back and forth. But at the very end, it was Josh Allen, and unfortunately for him, on his last drive, the guy was moving down the field. He was doing everything he needed. The Vikings had got a field goal, and then Josh throws the interception to Patrick Peterson, who had 2, by the way. But, John, the problem is I don't know if that Vikings defense is going to be a Super Bowl winning type team, if they get there even. But what do you think? I mean, defense is a problem, but you need defense to win championships.
Yeah, and in a hostile environment, Pete, to go in to Buffalo and beat those guys in Buffalo, to play them even in Buffalo is amazing.
Yeah.
And then to have the mistakes, like you say, because both quarterbacks did. Josh Allen, I was just reading, Pete, 29 of 43, 330 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Here's the big problem, though. The Bills haven't scored a touchdown in the second half in 3 consecutive games.
Not
So
good.
I don't know if it's conditioning. I'm not going to put it on that, Pete, because the team certainly looks like they have good conditioning. You know, you don't see a lot of guys just sucking wind, but there's something that's a little off when you come out of the locker room for the second half and you can't score a touchdown. We saw what happened with Mahomes when Mahomes was, struggling in the playoffs last year to score second half touchdowns. Because, you throw a pick at the end of one half and then you come out in the second half and maybe second guessing yourself or whatever. I don't know what it is. I think Josh Allen's still one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the league. But, your buddy Kirk Cousins may have moved into the number 3 spot with Mahomes and Allen. Certainly his stats back him up on that, Pete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's been pretty much money, John. I mean, look at the record. Anybody who wants to be critical, it's like, okay, well, if you actually watch him play and see him drive downfield in the last part of the game for the offense, he either's come away with a field goal or a touchdown. And then the defense's responsibility is stop the opposing team. And they've done a decent job of it, John. But we did have that one game against Philadelphia, who's still the best team and still undefeated. They beat us up pretty good, but it's a different Viking team now, I think, later in the season than they were early on. That was game 2, I believe, or maybe game 3. So it'll be very, very interesting, but the defense has got to get better for the Vikings.
Yeah, I agree. Big play defense, that's okay, but you got to stop them on regular plays too.
Yeah.
Especially if you're trying to hold on to a 30-27 or a 33-30 lead. You got to have somebody shut them down. Yeah. And the Vikings, luckily, maybe it was his elbow, Pete, because we both know Josh had a little bit of an elbow problem coming into the game from that hit the week prior. But it was an interesting game, and I agree with you. Best game of the year. Vikings 7-1. That's pretty damned impressive. Or what is it? 8-1, Peter? 7-1.
It's 8-1 now. Yeah.
8-1. Bang.
Bang.
All right. Well, folks, tomorrow I will be on time at 1 p.m. Eastern time. I promise. And I will bet Jared my clicker, I will bet him that I'll be on time tomorrow. Again, sorry I got stuck in the traffic, but really appreciate Jared and Pete being ready to go with or without me. And we'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, folks. Have a great day.